It's a community torn apart by fear and violence. And now Westbury is once again reeling after a deadly shooting that's left 2 teenagers dead and 4 others wounded. One parent has now come forward to assist police, but National Police Commissioner Fannie Masemola says more families need to break the silence. Police continue their search for suspects believed to have ambushed the group at a local home. Survivors say they are living in terror, some of them accusing local police of colluding with gangs and wrongly labeling them as members of rival groups. And as families nurse their injured children, questions are being asked about why gang shootings continue to terrorize communities like Westbury and other areas, and whether justice and stability will ever come. So let's speak to Westbury community leader Melissa Davis and Professor Nimarla Gopal, who is Criminology Professor at UKZN, joining us now to take that conversation forward. Melissa, let me start with you. Just reflecting on what we've seen in the last few days, it's the latest incident of a shooting. It shocked the nation in the sense that it involved teenagers. But what does it reveal about the problem of gangs, of drug peddling and early recruitment of young people into these activities in that community?
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me on your show. You know, it's so disheartening to find ourselves as a community in such a state. You know, looking at the real issues around how government continues to fail us as a people, you know, we don't have opportunities within our communities. We don't have anything that we can replace the gun with. We don't have anything to replace the drugs and gangsterism with in our communities. This needs an integrated approach of all government officials and officers to come together and find a amicable solution to the problem. I mean, if you look at Home Affairs, they were here in the week and they couldn't assist anyone. They were offline. So what happens to the young men that can't apply for jobs? They just go and just idle around, because the idle mind is a devil's workshop. And that is exactly what's happening in our communities. People are killing each other because there is nothing else better to do.
Let me stick with you for a moment, Melissa, because I think you are on to quite a powerful point. I'm interested because you didn't immediately pinpoint this as a law enforcement problem, but it seems to me you are pinpointing it as a social problem, socio-economic problem. Is that where the heart of the problem is?
That is where the heart of the problem is, but it also sits with SABC. You know, if SABC wants to do better, and if they are going to do better, we will definitely see tangible change. You know, they know their line of march and they know what their job descriptions is. I was pulled over just last week, Thursday, and I have no issue with stop and search. For anybody that knows me in the community, I stand for the truth and I stand for our people. But I was pulled over and I was gun pointed by anti-gang. I was with my 14-year-old son. We came from the by-election in Ward 29, and it was devastating to a point where the anti-gang officers actually said to me, "You are recording us now, you should record us when we come for you as well." So that is the threats that we get. The same people that is supposed to protect us is persecuting us. And this is the same officers that a lot of people are having complaints about. You know, we see the gang violence within our communities. We don't see any vans, we don't see any police enforcement. We are told that there's no vans or not enough law enforcement. But when we do a peaceful protest for jobs or opportunities for our people, we then get faced with nyalas, we get faced with pops, we get faced with thousands of vans coming out. But to actually calm the situations within our communities, we don't see any tangible change from any of these police officers.
Professor Nimarla Gopal, what does the recent incident reveal for you from a criminology perspective? The early recruitment of children into gangs, the recruitment of children to play a role as pushers of drugs in communities, but as well as the socio-economics that Melissa Davis is talking to. All right, I think we're having a bit of a struggle there with Professor Nimarla Gopal hearing us, so we'll come back to her in a moment. Melissa, talk to me about, from a perspective of law enforcement, is the anti-gang unit deployed in areas like Westbury? And if they are, what is the trust relationship with communities? Because the National Police Commissioner is asking more families of children, young people involved in gangs to come forward and basically report these, and also ordinary community members who are concerned with this, such as yourself, to come forward and replace. So what's that dynamic like, that relationship like? Does it enable the ease and trust that you can easily report and trust that something will be done about it?
I personally don't trust the process. I wouldn't say that all law enforcement officials or officers are bad people. We get good community members, we get bad community members, we get good police officers, we get bad police officers. What I am trying to say, they know exactly what is happening in our communities. They know this has been going on for the longest of time. What approach have they been taking? I mean, we have a whole GNU now. Can people not come together, work like glove in hand, and find solutions to the problem? I always say, our people are not bad people. They are just in bad situations. And if you give them opportunity, or if you give them work, you will then see the change that it will bring in our communities. Remember, when it comes to selling drugs or becoming a gangster, they don't ask for your CV. They don't ask for any qualifications. You are just absorbed in. So what challenges or what amicable approach is the government taking to basically beat and combat this kind of crime within our community?
And in terms of the operations of drugs and where the drugs are being pushed, there's knowledge, isn't there, in the community about problematic individuals, problematic specific homes. Is that the case, that these people are known in the community, and perhaps over a period of time, a sense of fear and invincibility kicks in, that community members start believing that, yes, we know that person is involved in gangs and drugs, but what's the point, because nothing will ever get done?
Can I be honest with you? As much as the community knows, the police also know. As much as the community knows, the police know, and it's their job, their prerogative, to actually combat the crime and the drugs and gangsterism. It is not for a community member to do it, because at the end of the day, if you have to look at it this way, you know your neighbor, you know your surrounding, you know what's happening. It is not foreign to anyone within our communities, but yet still the police would say that the community must work and stand with them. How must they do that when they cannot even protect themselves? The law enforcement needs to take the stance and combat the crime in our communities like they have taken an oath up to do.
So in terms of the prevailing mood then, in light of this incident that happened earlier this week, it comes, of course, Melissa, after there was this upheaval over the issues of water. Just recently, we were talking about water supply in the community, and there were marches and these protests that were being quelled by police, during that time, with clashes resulting. But now we see this incident. What's the prevailing mood in terms of just wanting to get closure and finality as to the culprits responsible for this crime, and the ability to collaborate with police to advance information in relation specifically to this particular crime?
To be honest with you, I would like to say to the people responsible, by them excluding us from meaningful development, right, and by allowing conditions like such that just recently transpired, and also with the water issue, to feel frustration and hopelessness in our communities. It is these underlying issues that are driving these challenges within our communities. I'm going to make a call out to the government to please find a way to actually come to the ground and find a solution. You cannot be sitting in parliament, you cannot be sitting in your offices and just sending out orders for the matter to be resolved. It will never end. It will never end. If we are going to be excluded all the time as a people, this will just never end.
All right, let me turn to Professor Nimarla Gopal. We've had to get her on the line because of some challenges that she's having with connectivity. Prof, just listening to that conversation with Melissa Davis and also the recent reporting around that incident in Westbury involving teenagers. The shooting involved teenagers, two of them who died, on arrival, were said to have been dead on arrival at hospital. What does it reveal about the confluence of factors that make it possible that young people of that age can be involved in an incident like that?
Good afternoon to the panelists and your viewers. Yeah, I think that's not something new, and this is not an isolated incident either. We've seen over a period of time where young people are recruited. Well, if this was gang related, then young people are recruited by gangs to participate in these kind of activities. I'm not sure what the circumstances were around the actual killing or shooting, but it's not unusual. And I think when we think about the socioeconomic conditions of the country, couple that with law enforcement, and most of the time the weak law enforcement, the weak enforcement of laws, etc., it's not surprising then that we have these kind of incidences play itself out in our country.
So part of the conversation is about the trust between the community and the police. In the wake of the shooting a couple of days ago in Westbury, one of the survivors has been talking about, not trusting the police. And Melissa Davis was talking to that element as well. And I quote here, someone here says, accusing the police of working with local gangs, claiming that officers from Sophiatown Police Station are colluding with groups like Varados and the Fast Gangs. And the quotation is, quote, "They work with gangsters. They collect money by drug lords," end quote. What drives that lack of trust between the community and police in communities that are gang-ridden like Westbury?
So I think to Rasie's way, if you asked me this question a couple of months ago, I would be a little more cautious in terms of how I would respond. But having listened to and watched the Madlanga Commission as well as the Portfolio Ad hoc Commission on Policing, it has become so visible, and it's also materialized that we have SABC personnel who collude with criminals, with gangsters, etc. So I don't think this is far-fetched when Melissa says this. Absolutely happening, and we have evidence. I mean, our witnesses are showing us evidence for this kind of collusion. But to Rasie's, I think what's very important and something that we're lacking, in terms of our SABC. SABC, because of the criminality and corruption within SABC and between criminals, etc., we are not identifying the cause of the corruption. We're not identifying the cause for young people being recruited into the gangs or young people being recruited into criminality. And I think, if SABC can identify the causes, they would probably be more effective.
So just lastly then, Prof, talk to me about the infrastructure as it stands now that the police have, or the criminal justice system, let me put it that way, beyond the police, the infrastructure to respond to gangsterism. The police telling us that since January this year, 19 alleged gangsters arrested in and around Westbury, 11 of them convicted. We're also seeing, of course, the trials that are playing themselves out in the Western Cape involving alleged criminal underworld figures in that space. What does that tell us about the efficiency of the criminal justice system in relation to responding to this specific phenomenon of gangsterism, the workings of the detectives, ballistics, DNA, digital forensics, and everything else that needs to fall into place so that the system starts to respond more effectively?
I think as long as we see sentencing and we see incarceration, that would restore the trust in communities. I think it's a step in the right direction if they at least get to trial, but the kind of evidence that our investigators actually generate is going to be critical to whether sentencing, the person is convicted or not, the criminals are convicted or not. So, yeah, I think that is a step in the right direction, but of course, whilst we have apprehended 19, there's still 100 who remain at large.
Yeah. Melissa, let me end it off with you. Is that the sense in the community that 19 are being reported by the police that they've been arrested since the beginning of the year and 11 convicted? Is that the sense from the community that this is beginning to make a difference, or is it a sense of this is just the tip of the iceberg?
It's neither or. We don't have any knowledge about what is actually happening. It's just getting worse day by day. And it is very important in my submission statement to basically bring to the public's attention that our community is not just struggling with violence, but also neglect and support from the government. Government needs to come together. I am going to reiterate that. They need to come together to find a solution, like Prof was saying, find a solution to this problem, because currently as we are standing as a community, and if I have to speak about all colored communities, there is no opportunity. So our children are idle minds, and that is the devil's workshop, and that is why our children don't have anything better to do but to do drugs and gangsterism. Give them opportunity. Find amicable ways to come together as government to really change the narrative of our colored communities.
All right, let's leave it there for this afternoon. I've got to thank both of you for having joined me. That's Melissa Davis, who is a Westbury community leader. We were, of course, also joined by Professor Nimarla Gopal, who is Criminology Professor at the University of KwaZulu-Natal.